Welcome back everyone to the final week of our Nutrition for Life series. If you don't remember me, my name is Alex from the Food Trust. We're a SNAP-Ed funded organization here, and the last 4 weeks we've been teaching all about my plate and eating and kind of living healthy, right? So if this is your first video you're watching, maybe you want to jump back and watch the other three from the last 3 weeks. If not, we're going to do a quick review and get you up to speed, all right? So thanks again for coming back. Now let's flash back all the way to week 1 and remember what we were talking about then, and that was my plate. And with my plate, we just want to remember my plate's our guide to food, right? It's our plate, and we want to make sure that our plate looks like that when we eat like 3 times a day, right? So that means half our plate needs to be fruits and vegetables, and we want those fruits and vegetables because they're full of vitamins, minerals, and fiber. In particular, that fiber that's really good for our digestion. Right? And we find that fiber on the skin of our fruits and vegetables, so let's make sure we're eating the skin and washing them nice and clean so that way we can eat the skin, right? So for those fruits and veggies, if you eat half a plate every time you eat, I'm sure you'll be feeling great, but if you want a little bit more in depth, it's 5 cups a day. So 2 cups of fruit, 3 cups of vegetables. We go a little more vegetables than fruits because fruits tend to be a little higher in sugar. So let's get those 5 cups a day, and that's going to keep us nice and healthy, right? The next group we're going to talk about, that grains group. And the grains group is where we find all of that energy. So those are things like our pastas and our rices and cereals and bread. All of that's going to give us great energy. In particular, we're looking for whole grains because not only do we get energy from them, we get fiber and we get nutrients that keep our energy up, keep our digestion moving, and keep our heart nice and clean. Right? The fiber in this one really helps keep our cholesterol and our blood sugar down. So we want to make sure we're getting that soluble fiber from our grains group, all right? And that next group is the protein group. Now proteins, we always associate protein with building muscle and stuff like that, but actually every organ in our body needs protein. Everything, our skin, our hair, because our whole body and our cells are built of proteins. So we want to make sure we're getting protein, but we get lean protein. So lean protein is protein with less fat in it. Our low-fat proteins like beans and nuts and chicken without the skin on it, and maybe fish too. And those lean proteins have more protein and less saturated fat. Saturated fat's that one that's not so great for our heart. We can have it sometimes, but we don't want to get too much of it in our diet. And this last group we're going to touch base about real quick is the dairy group. Now the dairy group is good for us as well. We can definitely keep good dairy foods because they're full of calcium, right? But I also like to call this the calcium group because some of us can't always have dairy foods. So let's make sure we get the calcium-rich foods that are best for us. If we get those 3 cups of dairy a day or 3 cups of calcium-rich foods, we're going to get all of the calcium we need to keep nice strong bones, nice strong teeth, and to keep our body upright. Now, dairy foods can also be very high in saturated fat, just like those proteins, so we want to look for those lower fat dairy foods, or again, those calcium-rich alternatives like fortified foods, like orange juice or bread or cereal, or we can even go with something like beans or greens. Greens tend to be high in calcium too. So that's our quick redo on my plate. Here's what we're looking to get in our diet every day and every time we eat. Now in week 2 we talked all about the nutrition facts label, and there's 3 big areas we talked about, and that's the things you want to know, the things we want to kind of keep in mind and get maybe not as much of, and the things we need, right? So in the no category, the big top part, we want to know how many calories are in our food. And calories are just units of energy, right? They're what our body needs to kind of keep us going. So if we need those units of energy, we want to know how much is in our food. We also want to know portion sizes and portions per serving, right? If we know the portion per serving, we know how much of that food we should be eating and how much energy we're getting for eating that specific food. So we want to make sure we know the calories per serving, the serving size, and all of that stuff. And the next section had our big 3 in it, right? Our salt, our sugar, and our fat. We see those as maybe fat or saturated fat, sodium, and sugar or added sugar, right? With fat, fat is so good for us, right? We need fat in our diet. A lot of our vitamins are processed, but we need the right fats. Sometimes when we get fats that are high, like saturated, so they're saturated with that fat, right? They're saturated with fat molecules. It tends to actually put us back because our body needs more energy to break them down. So we want to make sure we're avoiding excessive amounts of saturated fat and we're looking towards our unsaturated fats. So they have less fat molecules on it, right? It's a little bit easier for our body to break down and tends to be a little bit better for us. And a big distinction is if it's solid at room temperature, it's probably a saturated fat. And if it's liquid at room temperature, it's probably an unsaturated fat. So just keep those in mind. And we definitely don't want trans fats. Trans fats are the fats our body can't even break down. So there's our basics of fats. Then we go to salt. Now salt tends to lead to high blood pressure. I think we've heard that before. So we want to make sure we're getting the right amount of salt in our diet. We need salt to retain water. Our body needs it, but when we get too much, it can start to hurt us and create that high blood pressure. So we only need about 2,000 milligrams of salt in a day, or about the size of the top of your pinky, a teaspoon. So make sure you're watching salt, because sometimes it's hidden in our food. Even things like bread have salt in it. So take an eye at the nutrition facts label. Make sure you're looking for low and no sodium foods, especially in our canned goods or foods that are preserved, even our packaged goods, and even when we eat out, because they tend to use a lot of salt in cooking when you eat out. So let's get the right amount of salt. I know we talked about fat. We want to get the right amount of fat, right, and lower cholesterol so it doesn't hurt our heart. And then for sugar, we want to make sure we're not getting too much sugar, because that can lead to excessive weight gain and tends to lead to diabetes, right? So in particular, we want to avoid added sugar. Now, added sugar is sugar that doesn't naturally occur in something. So if I eat an orange doesn't have added sugar in it, right? But if I bite the orange, I dip it in sugar and I bite it again, guess what I did? I added sugar. And we tend to find a lot of the added sugars in our beverages. Are things like soda, which is all added sugar, right? There's no natural sugars in soda. It's all added sugar, right? Even our less than 100% juices. If a juice says it's 25% juice, means we only really know 25% of that is natural sugars, right? Sugars that maybe our body is more prepared to take care of. Even things like lactose sugar in milk, right? If it's lactose sugar, most of our bodies are ready to take care of that. If it's lactose sugar plus extra sugar, our body might not be ready to take care of that. And that sugar, that fat, those fats and that sugar, right, fat from before and sugar from now, they get stored as extra energy, right? They get stored as fat, which is extra energy for our body. So we want to make sure we're not getting too many added sugars in our diet, especially to keep our heart nice and healthy, right? That's the big thing from those three. We want to make sure we're avoiding excessive amounts of those three, because all three of them can have some adverse effects on our heart. Lastly, we're talking about the bottom section of the label. And that's where we find our key nutrients, our things like calcium, our vitamin A, vitamin D, I think magnesium and iron, right? Like the labels have key nutrients that we need to make sure we're getting in our diet every day. And we do that by checking out the percent daily value. And a percent daily value is just how much of this food, one portion, gives me the percent of what vitamin I need of that. So if we use that as a guide, right, and it says 30% value of vitamin C, and I eat 3 servings of it, I get 90% of my vitamin C from that. Or if I eat 1 serving, I get 30%. So we want to look for foods that are high in that category as well. In particular on the label, we're looking for a couple of different things. When we're thinking about something like fat, we're looking for products that have less than 20%, 25% of our daily value of saturated fat in them. So when you look at that daily value, look for products that have less than 25% of your daily value of fat and saturated fat. And that's going to be a great way to cut back on some of that fat in your diet. Another one is we're looking for low sodium products, which means it has less than 140 milligrams per serving. You have low sodium products like that. You have very low sodium products which have less than 35 milligrams, and you have no sodium products, which are things like canned goods that say no sodium and they have no milligrams of sodium. So look for those low, very low, and low products too. They're going to be a great way to cut back on sodium. Next, with sugar, we're also looking, just like with that fat, we're looking for products with less than 25% of our daily value of sugar. Those are going to be our less sugar products, or our low in sugar products. Then if you look even lower and get products that are sugar-free or no added sugar, those are going to be better, right? Sugar-free means there's no sugar in the product, and no added sugar means we cut out that additional sugar we were talking about before. And with those 3 labels, right, when they say low fat, it has to have less than 25% of your daily value of fat. If they say low fat on the front. And same with low sodium, and same with no added sugar or sugar free. They can't advertise that on the front without it being that, but it's always good to double check the back. Another one is low cholesterol. We want to look really for products with less than 20 milligrams of cholesterol per serving. And cholesterol is that blood fat, that one that can get, that if it increases in our bloodstream, it can really start to clog up and create problems for our heart. So let's look for those low cholesterol products as well, or cholesterol free. So products that don't add any cholesterol to our system. Because our system's already creating cholesterol, right? Because it needs blood fat to move around vitamins and minerals. So we want to make sure we're getting the right amount of cholesterol and look for those low cholesterol. And the last one is that fiber, right? We talked about fiber before. That fits into that last category of things we need to know, right? And we're looking for products that have more than 5 grams of fiber per serving. Those are going to be great sources because we're looking to get 25 grams of fiber in our diet to keep our heart clean and our digestion moving. So if we can find products with more than 5 grams of fiber per serving, we're doing great. If we find products with more than 3, that's better. That's going to be a good serving. And anything with less than 1, maybe we shouldn't put that in our grains group, right? Maybe we shouldn't have that as often as our other products. And now reviewing from week 3, there's one more thing we need to touch on, and that's all about calories, right? And we said calories are units of energy, but some calories, believe it or not, are better than others. Now, if something has 150 calories and something has 150 calories, but these 150 calories come from all added sugar, and these 150 calories come from fiber, and they come from vitamin C, and they come from energy building substances, what's going to be better for you? Well, of course the one full of fiber is, right? Because we don't need those empty calories. And life in our diet is all about balancing, right, caloric intake, and also about using energy in the right way. Because if we get a certain amount of energy in, and we don't use all that energy gets stored as fat, right? And we don't necessarily want excessive amounts of fat, right? Because that can start to hurt us. We want to make sure we're at a healthy weight that makes us feel good and that we wake up feeling good every morning. So keep that in mind. If we get the right amount of calories and we use the right, guess what happens? Well, we maintain the same caloric balance. And if you're looking to shed some of that stored energy, you want to use more calories than you take in, right? Now, does that mean I should just not eat? Absolutely not. It means we should consider alternative ways of burning excessive energy, right? Like physical activity. Physical inactivities can lead to storing calories as well. So let's make sure we're getting 30 minutes of activity 5 days a week. As adults, that's going to make sure we really maintain a healthy heart and use all of that stored energy. Also, smoking can really lend to that physical inactivity. Right? So make sure that, if you're smoking, you talk to your doctor about ways to remedy or find solutions that work best for you. We also want to make sure we're avoiding all of this because it leads to those diseases that we kind of have touched on a couple of times, like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and heart disease. Right? So if we're maintaining a healthy activity level, we're getting the right foods, we're following our MyPlate plan, that's going to make us feel better at the end of the day. And avoid all of those bigger foods, right? We talked about last time how food has continued to grow over time. So make sure you're checking the label, you're kind of listening to those different plans and reading your labels, and that's gonna help you out. And make sure you're doing what's best and what feels best for you. That's actually the best guide, right? We can follow labels, we can follow everything, but if you're not doing what feels good to you, you're not helping yourself. So make sure you take time and do what feels good to you. Because if you're not doing what feels good to you, it's going to lead to high stress levels. And one of the things that can curb our diet and hurt our balancing is going to be that stress, because it weighs on us mentally, it weighs on us physically, it weighs on us literally in our hearts and our minds. So we want to make sure we're in good mental health, and that's going to help us keep good physical health. So today we talked about some of those nutrient claims, and we're going to use those and MyPlate to talk all about meal planning. Now, when I say meal planning, a lot of people think it's this specific regimen of foods I need to eat and I can't eat. But believe it or not, meal planning is just your guide to eating every single day, right? And your meal plan can be whatever you want, right? But I have a couple of suggestions that are going to help us out with our meal plan. And the first one is right here, using MyPlate. if you just basically work off my plate, right? And every time I eat, I'm looking for those 5 groups or trying my best to get those 5 groups, that's gonna be a step in the right direction towards your meals. Now, if I'm thinking of my plate when I do that, and I'm thinking about getting a cup of fruit, a cup and a half or a cup of vegetables, you know, a couple of ounces of grains and a couple of ounces of protein, whatever your choice, dealer's choice, right? And some dairy or calcium-rich foods, right? If I'm thinking about getting those in all of my meals, I need to think about how I'm doing it all week, right? And sometimes you're gonna miss, and sometimes you're gonna hit right on. But it's just about thinking about that every time you eat. So some of you might be thinking, oh, what's the big deal? Why should I meal plan? Well, here are some good benefits of it. First thing, you're gonna eat out less, right? When you eat out, you're spending extra money. A lot of times you spend extra money on meals and you don't always take leftovers home. Or you take leftovers home and they get lost in the fridge. Or you eat all of it there, right? And that leads to a lot of extra calories, right? So make sure you're considering that you can really, really curb how much you're eating out by meal planning, right? You always have the groceries you need. That's a big one, because sometimes, I don't know about you, if I don't meal plan, I end up going to make dinner or going to make a meal and I don't have everything I need. But if you're meal planning the right way and you're thinking about everything, right, and all of the groceries ahead of time, you're gonna have everything you need for your plan. And again, this isn't eating the same thing every day, right? You can have a plan that's vibrant and inclusive of so many different meals and so many different foods. Just make sure when you think about it, right, and you meal plan, you get everything you need, right? And we'll talk about some of those. Saving money, right? If I'm thinking about what I'm eating ahead of time, it stops me from going out and spending money. It also stopped me from doubling back to the grocery store because I forgot something, right? I made a plan, I know what I have, I know how much money I can spend on that plan, so it's definitely gonna help us out in saving money in the long run. You also get to try different foods. I don't know about you, but I'm a recipe guru. I love trying new recipes and finding new things and doing new things. So if I fit it into a meal plan and I plan to make it and I'm thinking ahead of time, I get to try new foods. Maybe I find something that becomes a staple meal and I would have never tried it because I didn't think of taking the time to make a new recipe and taking a time to think through my meal plan. Another one. Oh, all about the nutrition, right? I didn't even think about nutrition yet. Because if I'm making a meal plan, guess what I'm also doing? I'm planning around that my plate and I'm getting all the vitamins, minerals, and fiber I need. If I make a meal plan, I can think about all the ways I'm getting my fruits, vegetables, and grains, and that fiber that's good for my heart and my digestion. So let's make sure we find all our ways to get those nutrients in our diet. If I'm making a meal plan, I'm definitely getting all that calcium I need, right? Because I'm thinking about where that calcium's coming from and I'm thinking about what foods these fibers are coming from. And it doesn't have to be this like long, extensive plan. It can be something you do every couple of days. It's just like, what am I gonna eat for the next couple of days? Okay, wait, now I have a plan, right? And oh, maybe I should add vegetables here. It seems like I'm gonna be light on the vegetables that day. Oh, maybe I need more calcium in dairy foods these days. So just keep that in mind. It's a great way to get those nutrients. Another added bonus is it saves you time, especially when you're busy. Because when you're busy, a lot of times you just default to eating out. I know I do when I have some of those crazy days, right? So keep that in mind that when you're busy and if you had a plan, you can prep stuff ahead of time. And I'm not talking about that like trainer's meal prep, like, oh, I'm gonna eat chicken, zucchini, and rice every day. No, it's just like, oh, I'll make a bigger batch so that way I can have leftovers that night so I'm not going out and spending money. And those leftovers I know were a my plate meal and had everything I need. Why? Because I ate them earlier in the week. So you can save a lot of time and a lot of money that way. If you're meal prepping, thinking about, oh, I'll make bigger batches of rice, right? So that way I only have to cook them on Monday night, but I can use it Wednesday and then Thursday's dish. Oh, I'll make some more pasta so I could use that Tuesday and Friday, right? Oh, I'll roast these vegetables, right? So I can use that Tuesday and Wednesday, right, in a different dish. And it helps you get creative, right? It saves you that time, it saves you money, especially when you're busy, and it makes sure you get all the nutritious foods. Now, when we're thinking about getting creative with dishes too, right? It's not just about using the cool recipes you find. Think about just like the basics of making a dish. Choose a vegetable. Maybe something you've tried before. Maybe something you've wanted to try putting together. Choose one or two of them. Maybe pick a protein. right? Tonight we'll use chicken, maybe tomorrow we'll use fish. We'll take 2 vegetables and a fish, right? A grain you like, maybe brown rice or white rice, your preference. Maybe put it on tortillas tonight or something like that and make some weird tacos. I don't know. Try some different foods in a taco. I always like to say try a liquid too, like a sauce, right? Make your own sauce. Avoid those high sodium things. Or put it all in soup. Let's put some vegetables and some protein and some grains in a broth and make soup, right? And then think about how you're gonna spice it. Instead of just throwing salt in, try some different herbs and spices and maybe things you haven't before. You can get so creative with the way you make your meals. You just have to think about them ahead of time. Because if you don't, you're never gonna have the time to put the effort in. So just keep that in mind. Meal planning can be fun. It can be something creative. It can be exciting because you can always try new things. You can try new recipes. You can make new recipes. And you can do all that because you take the time to think about what you're eating before you do it. So before, we talked about the benefits of meal planning, and one of them was it can save you money. Well, how does it save you money? It's not like a meal plan just making it automatically makes food not cost any money. No. There are things you can do within meal planning that are going to save you money. Like the first thing is making a grocery list. If I don't have to double back to the store, it means I save money on gas and I save time. And time is money, right? So if I don't have to spend the extra time going to get stuff, I'm already saving there. When I get to the store, if I have a list and I know what I need to buy, I won't buy extra foods. I won't buy too much of something, right? I won't buy something I don't need. Especially when I go to the store and sometimes I go hungry, I buy things I don't actually need. It is like clockwork that ice cream sandwiches end up in my cart when I'm hungry at the store. But I don't necessarily always need ice cream sandwiches. I need them sometimes, don't get me wrong. They're a great snack, like sometimes food. But if I'm hungry at the store, I'm thinking about things I can eat and I'm not sticking to my list. So keep that in mind, right? You can write a list on a cabinet, you can write a list on the fridge, you can write a list in your phone, but listing is going to be one of those ways that it really saves money because you're not overbuying, you're not underbuying, you're not running around, you're not buying things you don't need, you're making sure you don't have too many extra things in your cabinet. Because sometimes things just get lost in the cabinet or lost in our fridge, and that's going to be a way we lose money too. And saving money is making sure we know what we have. Think about your fridge and the number of times something just got pushed to the back and disappeared. Or your cabinet, something got pushed to the back and disappeared. Even canned goods. I know I found a canned good that was like 4 years old in my 4 years like old and expired in my cabinet, and it's like, why didn't I use this when I could have, right? And so that's why I like to use FIFO. So first in, first out, right? The new stuff I'm putting in, it goes to the back and I push the old stuff forward. And I even do that with the fridge. When new stuff comes in, I push stuff from the back forward so I don't let anything go bad. Make sure you're regularly checking your whole fridge and cleaning it out. That's going to be a great way to stop you from wasting those fruits and vegetables or wasting leftovers or wasting something that could have easily gone in the freezer and been used another time, right? Or something that was in your cabinet that you could have used in a dish and maybe you went and bought more of it because you didn't think you had it. So keep that in mind. Listing and knowing what you have are going to be some big things that can help out when it comes to saving some money. You can also purchase things in bulk. Sometimes, there are things you use a lot of. For me, it's like pasta and rice. I know I use a lot of whole wheat pasta and I know I have rice. And when you buy 1 pound of rice, it's like $1 a pound. But when you buy 5 pounds of rice, it's like $4 for 5 pounds. And if you buy 10 pounds of rice, it's like $7 for 10 pounds, right? And the more you buy of something, sometimes the unit price goes down and it costs less money. So there are some foods your family or you use constantly, buy them in big batches. Why not? If there are some things you don't use a lot of, don't buy it in big batches. So for me, that's milk. I know when I moved out on my own 10 years ago, I always bought a gallon of milk because that's what my family had, right? Well, I didn't drink a gallon of milk. My family had a gallon of milk because there were 7 of us living there, right? And we went through a gallon of milk in the time before it went bad. Me, I was just throwing away milk every other week because it was going bad, and that's when I realized, well, I don't need a gallon. Maybe I'll get a half gallon or a quart or something that's an appropriate size for me to use. So when you think about buying in bulk, maybe buy things in bulk that you can use regularly, like your rices and pastas, or shelf-stable things like canned goods that are on sale, or things that go in the freezer that maybe, like buy a big bag of frozen vegetables because it's cheaper than buying a bunch of small bags if you go through them fast, right? And buy things that in the right size quantity. If you don't use 12 eggs before 12 eggs go bad, maybe only buy 6 next time. Or if you don't use a gallon of milk, maybe only buy a quart or a half gallon, right? You can choose the appropriate size, and that's going to save you some money too. Another thing is checking out your flyers. I don't know if anyone's a couponer. I'm not really a couponer, but sometimes those special deals and those circulars or the flyers at the front of the store, they let you know. And that's what leads me to shopping at different stores. Going to different stores, as long as they're in close proximity and not using more time and money that's not worth it, right? I'll go anywhere for a special, right? I'll get my staple goods at any store. So if a store has a special of something I want, I'll go to that store for the special and buy my staple goods there. Because a lot of our staple goods have very similar prices, like eggs and milk and, our butter and oils and all of that type of stuff, like your cooking materials. All of those basic ones kind of have a similar price. You can get those staple and canned goods kind of wherever you're going, but go to different stores for specials. If produce is on sale, especially during the winter, I'm going to the store with the produce on sale, right? Or if I like a certain store for something and another, I'm just going to pick different days or the same. If I go on one day, I'll go to both, or I'll pick different days to go to the different stores. Another big thing is shopping at farmers markets, because farmers markets are completely different monsters than stores. And I mean that because you get to meet the farmer, you get to know the farmer, you get to know the product, and a lot of times you get to talk with them about the product. So when you get to do all of those things, you get to know more about the produce you're taking. You can find a new recipe that maybe you put in your meal plan. And a lot of times you can save money because you're buying seasonal foods. Farmers only have food that they can grow. I mean, some of them supplement and buy other products, but a lot of farmers are only growing products that grow in your area at your time. So that means they're growing a lot of them. They tend to grow extra of them. If they have a bumper crop, so an extra large crop, it means prices kind of go down. And time your visit the right. If you're looking for something in particular, you should get there when the farmer's market starts. But if you don't, you're kind of just looking for deals and stuff like that, go towards the end, because a lot of farmers don't want to take stuff home. They want to sell it, right? So you might be able to get a discount on your cabbage and your peppers, right? Versus going in the beginning where you're kind of paying full price. And a lot of farmers markets nowadays take SNAP, right? They take supplemental nutrition access program like food stamps. And you can use them right on site. A lot of them take cards now too, cash and card. It's not just like a cash transaction place anymore. You can really use whatever money you use to spend on food. A lot of them you can use those currencies at. Another thing is use your leftovers. Throwing leftovers away, or making too much that it goes bad and you have to throw it away. Spoilage is so much money. There's so much money that goes into that. So make sure you use your leftovers. You can also bake dishes that are huge and then freeze some of it. If you think, I'm going to make something big, I'll cut it in half and I'll freeze it so I can just heat it up the next week. That totally works too. The freezer is a great tool, especially for fruits that are about to go bad, or even vegetables, right? You can always find a way to put your vegetables and your fruits in the freezer before they go bad, right? Think about frozen fruits and vegetables. Why do I don't have to buy them at the store. I can just use the ones I have before they go bad and put them in the freezer. So just make sure you're not letting too much go to spoilage, right? Make sure you're using the foods you make and eating the food you make, and creating a great balanced plan for yourself that helps you save money and doesn't lead to you throwing too much away. So now that we have a meal plan, make sure you include snacking in your meal plan too. Because some days we just don't make it through the 3 meals that we plan, right? Make sure you have some good snacks on hand. So some good snacks are going to be things that fit into that low sodium group, so less than 140 milligrams like we talked about before. A low fat group, something that's under the 25% saturated or 25% fat, right? And a low sugar group, something that's under that 25% sugar. So we're looking for something that's light but filling. So maybe something full of fiber too. So think about your snacks, right? Think about having them on hand. So what are some good snacks? Well, I like to say anything that you can turn into a My Plate snack is a good snack. So a My Plate snack is going to be a snack that puts 3 of your food groups together. So it could be something like celery with peanut butter and raisins, right? So that's your vegetable, your fruit, and your protein, right? And when you do that, I'm putting together fiber, I'm putting together protein, I'm putting together some sugar, I'm putting together other vitamins and minerals, right? And that's gonna make it a little more filling for myself. Even things like pretzels, right? Our low sodium pretzels, especially if they're whole grain, tend to be high in fiber. So maybe I'll eat pretzels with peanut butter and, I don't know, raisins or something else, right? You know, get creative. A snack I always go to is low-fat yogurt, nuts, and raisins. Make like a parfait or granola or cereal, right? Cheerios, yogurt, and raisins. Mix that bad boy up. Ooh, that's a good one. So think about it, because when you diversitize your snack, it helps keep you more full throughout the day because I'm getting so many different foods. I also like to make sure my snacks do have some fiber in them, because fiber is what keeps us full, right? If I ate it for breakfast and I'm starting to get a little hungry, maybe I should eat a little more fiber to keep my stomach full and keep my digestive tract working the right way. You know, that way I get tied to lunch, and maybe I need a snack, or maybe I need a snack in the afternoon that's not just coffee, right? Well, maybe I'll put some banana and yogurt and some, Cheerios. That sounds like a great snack to me because it has calcium in it. It has some, that dairy food has some calcium in it. If you're using low fat, a little bit of fat, or non-fat, no fat and no sugar, right? So let's get that calcium. We'll get those fiber from the Cheerios. Even Cheerios are fortified with calcium, so we're getting extra calcium. We can get, if we're putting apples on it, right? We get even more fiber, from the apple. So, or pick a different fruit like blueberries to get some antioxidants, right? Get some color, mix it up every day. So snacks are going to be a great way we can kind of supplement what we're missing in our meal plan for my plate, but also can really help tide us through the day, so that way we're not really going off the rails when we, and overeating at dinner, lunch, or breakfast. Now for you salty snack lovers, maybe you'll do something like those pretzel sticks like I talked about. What about popcorn? Popcorn's going to be a great snack. Just don't get, too much butter and too much salt on it. But a little bit of salted butter, doesn't hurt. So, salty, what else? Wheat thins. Wheat thins are going to be great because they're 100% whole grain. Check the label of any of your packaged foods. On the front, if it says 100% whole grain, guess what? It has to be 100% whole grain, which normally means it has a good amount of fiber in it. But I'd still always flip it over and check the label, right? Check that ingredients list, check to see how much fiber in it. But some of our saltier snacks, like those pretzels, that popcorn, and those wheat thins, they're gonna be a great source of that fiber. Now for people that maybe like our sweeter snacks, like I said, granola bars can be good too, right? Just, again, avoid the ones that have excessive amounts of sugar. Look for ones with like some natural sugar in them, or maybe made with honey, or maybe don't have as much chocolate in them, right? Look for those ones that are a little better in that way. Or something like apples. Apples are super sweet, or oranges. They're some of our sweeter fruits. They're gonna kind of quench some of that like sweet tooth you have. Maybe caramel rice cakes, or something like lightly caramelized, or something like that, right? Just always check the label and make sure there's not too much added sugar in our sweet snacks, because we want to make sure we're still getting some of those benefits of fiber, vitamins, and minerals, but we're not getting too much added sugar when we snack. Now the last thing we're going to talk about is eating out. And I know we talked about it before, but we're just going to review it real fast. Now, eating out can totally be part of your meal plan. Just make sure it's part of your meal plan and not something you end up doing, right? Especially if we're looking to save time and money, we want to make sure it's in that plan we're thinking about a couple of days in advance. If you're planning a week in advance and you plan everything out for a week, that's great. But I always like to say, start with a couple of days. Start with like 2 or 3 days and see if you can kind of keep it up every 2 or 3 days. And then if you can get it to a week, that's great. But dining out can totally be part of your meal plan. Just make sure you know what to do when you dine out. Watch your portion sizes. Portions at restaurants tend to be really big. A portion when you dine out could turn into 2 portions, right? I could have this for dinner and this for lunch the next day. Because a lot of times when you dine out, the portions are two portions, right? So that can fit in your plan. You can add that to your plan. Look at the menu. Find maybe alternatives. If you think you need more vegetables in your diet, maybe don't get French fries and get the salad or a side salad. Or see if they have steamed broccoli or mixed veggies or something like that. But think about, even when you're eating out, think about how it fits into my plate. Or in a day, maybe if you're gonna go eat out and it might not be the best, my plate experience, get your vegetables and fruits earlier in the day. Kind of load up on them at breakfast and lunch, so that way when you eat out for dinner, you don't miss those in your daily group, right? We say we want it 3 times a day, but like if you're still hitting that 2 cups of fruit and 3 cups of vegetables, getting those 5 cups a day, you know, and you have to get it early some days and later other days, that works too. You know, because then if you get something that has less fruits and vegetables in it, and you cut it in half and you eat half of it and you take it home, add some of your own veggies to it and your own fruit when you eat it for lunch the next day or the day after. So keep those things in mind. We can use eating out as part of our meal plan. We just got to be smart about it. Even things like going to a buffet, right? If you go to a buffet, just make sure you're using the right size plate and you're filling it up with the right things. You know, sometimes it's really easy to overeat at a buffet. So just, you know, eat until, you know, what your plate says or what feels right. Don't force yourself to overeat. It's all right to do it sometimes, but it's when we do it too often that it can start to become a little bit of an issue. So just make sure you're thinking about, oh, when was the last time I did this? Maybe I will go a little extra tonight, you know, or, you know, maybe, I do this too often. I really should cut back and think about my plate again. So dining out can totally be part of your plan. Just make sure it's in your plan and not something you end up doing. Because sometimes when it's something we end up doing, we end up at fast food places. And fast food places tend to be the places that are high in salt, high in sugar, and high in fat. You know, that triple threat we were talking about, the heart triple threat. So does it happen if I eat fast food once in a while? Is it gonna hurt me too much? Absolutely not. It's when we do it way too often. And that's what I mean. Fast food ends up to be the place we end up at. Unlike a restaurant, which tends to be part of our plan, we tend to end up at fast food. So, can fast food be part of your plan? Sure. You know, if you think about it. But just make sure it's part of your My Plate plan. And really think through what you're getting when you go there, right? If you're getting extra salty and extra fried and extra stuff too often, it can really start to hurt down the line. Yeah, so avoid things like, you know, doubling up your hamburger. Maybe get a single hamburger and get some lettuce tomato on it. You know, avoid things that are like breaded. You know, that breading's just extra fried calories. You know, maybe get the grilled chicken option or the grilled fish option or the, you know, again, the grilled burger option. Those tend to work too. Sub out your sides. A lot of times it's a burger and fries, but maybe you could get a burger and, I don't know, a parfait or a burger and an apple or something like that. That's going to help too. Think about how big your portions are. Right, we talked about not getting the double burger, but sometimes the double burger comes with a large fries too. So if you're gonna do 2 burgers, maybe you only get a small fry, you know? And make sure you're eating till you're full and not overeating, because that tends to be a limiter too. A lot of times with these fast food items, they go down real easy and then we end up bloated and tired afterwards, and that creates physical inactivity. And we want to make sure we're getting that physical activity. So just keep that in mind. Be smart about the way you navigate fast food restaurants, especially if they're part of your plan or if you end up there. So I want to thank you guys for listening in this week. I really appreciate you all coming out the last couple of weeks. Now, remember, we had 4 sessions. You can go back and review and look at all of them. The first section was all about My Plate and all of our healthy eating. The second session was about those big 3 in the nutrition facts label: fat, salt, and sugar, and why we should think about them a little more. And the third session was all about the calories in, calories out, and really maintaining healthy exercise, healthy physical activity, and kind of leading a healthy lifestyle, right? And this last one, we talked all about meal planning, ways we can lead that healthy lifestyle. So keep in mind, we have 4 parts. If you need to touch up on any of them, flick back in those videos. Today, we're just gonna review quick what we talked about today. Now, just remember, when you're making a meal plan, you wanna be smart. Use your My Plate. It's literally a guide to what should be on our plate every time. We wanna make sure we're trying to save some money, right? We can save money by meal planning. We can save time by meal planning, and we can make sure we get all the nutrients we look for. Now, to save that money, we can go to the store with a grocery list. That's gonna help us out because it's gonna be our guide to the foods we need, not the foods we necessarily extra want, right? And when you make a grocery list, those foods you want can be on there too. We just wanna be conscious about the money we're spending and the meals we're making. Get creative. Being creative is one of the best things you can do. Make new recipes, create new recipes. Really think about the foods you want to use and the foods you want to try, because it's always going to work out. Lastly, think about your snacks. Snacks can fill in throughout the day. It keeps us healthy, especially if we're looking for those My Plate snacks that have our 3 food groups And lastly, restaurants can be part of the meal plan, just don't make them the whole plan. Sub them in every so often and be conscious of what you're eating when you're out at the restaurant. Thanks again for coming. I really enjoyed talking to you these last 4 weeks, and I look forward to seeing you on the Food Trust Online Learning Hub some other time. Have a great one.